You're only at capacity till you get a bigger container. What do I mean by that? I remember when I was in my teens, I heard the Psalm 23 for the first time. And it goes something like this: The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He leads me beside the still waters. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He prepares a table before me in the presence of my enemies. He anoints my head with oil. My cup runs over. And I might have switched maybe one of those verses in order, but the point that I want to get to is my cup runs over. Not just pouring enough for me to have a little sip or pouring enough for me to quench my thirst, but pouring so much that my cup runs over. And when I was married the first time, I had a lot of issues, a lot of problems in that marriage. It was a domestic violence situation. And getting divorced and realizing, okay, I'm healing from that, it felt like my cup was running over just to heal, just to be safe, just to be able to provide for my two sons and to have a roof over my head and a steady job and a paycheck and a little money to put in the bank to get a down payment for a house. It felt like my cup was running over. It felt like I was building a brand new life for myself, and I was. And then my cup got a little bigger because I realized that I could get more, and I wasn't getting any child support. I got about a year of child support and then my ex, stopped paying. But then I got into a relationship with a man who met every one of the 10 qualities that I had written and put on a paper on my wall. That's what I believed. That's what I wanted. That's what I prayed for, what I manifested. I got exactly what I asked for. And the first 2 years of our marriage, my cup runneth over. Oh my gosh. you know, Incredible, amazing, beautiful, miraculous, marvelous, spectacular, just, yeah. And then some things happened where that began to go downhill, and he didn't really care about his health. He didn't really care about our marriage. So that began to go downhill, but he was still a great father, and I still felt like my cup was running over because he was so much more involved than their own biological father had been in my sons. And he had such a beautiful, loving, supportive, healthy relationship, and as a mother and as a child who grew up in a dysfunctional household, it it did my heart so good to feel like the one thing I did right, even if I didn't get the love that I needed anymore in that marriage, was to give my kids a home where they had friends over all the time. My house was the house to come to. They had just a loving family that was just full of joy and peace and calm and support. And I did that right. And I felt like my cup, my cup was running over, even though, like I said, my heart was breaking about my marriage in terms of our personal relationship. I still was overjoyed about the parental bond that we had and the fact that we were partners in raising our children, and that was still something that I definitely stayed for, even when our marriage was dead and we were living like roommates. And then fast forward to when they walked across the stage, and, I decided that I was becoming a bitter woman and I didn't want to destroy the beautiful partnership that we had by letting my mouth and my actions and my attitudes become negative towards my husband that I was so grateful for giving me, like I said, the partnership in raising my kids. And so I said, okay, I've done all that I can do in staying in this loveless marriage. I can't stay anymore and keep what we built. It's going to be destroyed. I'm going to destroy it. So I am going to step out and end this by getting divorced. And I'm, even though I had given him a chance for, 9 years to go to therapy with me, to work on his health issues with me, to work on our marriage with me. And he said, nope, that part of our life is over. You're going to have to adjust. So I felt like I had done everything I possibly could do to fix it, but that didn't work. So then I decided I wanted a bigger cup again. My bigger cup this time was going to be pulling all my dreams off the shelf, all the things that I had shelved and said, hey, that's not for me. That's not practical. That's not, going to be something I can pursue as a wife, as a mom. I got to just put that to the side. I don't have time. I don't have energy. I don't have money. I decided to pull all those things off the shelf and work on them one by one. And all of them began to bear fruit, from me getting new certifications, to me beginning to write again and beginning to get published, and then deciding that I was going to do poetry and perform poetry and get back into activism and get back into other things that I was interested in, like voiceover work, doing workshops on wellness, exploring wellness opportunities and becoming a life coach, and, exploring spiritual paths, all of this stuff that I was interested in that I put on the shelf. I started pulling it off the shelf, and my cup was running over. And it was not only running over with opportunities to learn and grow and change and challenge myself, but it was overflowing with financial opportunities. In the last 11 years, from the time I got divorced till now, I make double the amount that I made when I was married. Double. And that was something that, again, I didn't even imagine. I have 5 books, 4 of them Amazon bestsellers. I've done over 100 shows. I've done dozens of workshops. I've gone on retreats. I've had all of these experiences that I would have never even imagined. Right now I have a spa membership, monthly membership. I have a chiropractic membership, monthly membership. I have a maid service that comes once a month. I have grocery delivery twice a month, sometimes more. These are things that make me have a soft, pampered life that I would have never imagined 11 years ago were even possible for me. I mean, that was something that maybe somebody else somewhere else could have. My cup runneth over. And even with the amazing life that I've curated for myself, when I have certain experiences and I make friends with people who really enrich my life, I have mentors, I'm dating a man who is really adding value to me and I'm able to add value to him, my cup begins to run over even more because of the wealth of the friendships and partnerships that I'm able to align myself with. And so whenever you feel you're at capacity, sometimes you just need to get a bigger cup. You just need to expand your mindset of what's possible. You just need to be able to expand your heart to what you can receive and not put those limitations of, hey, I just need enough to get by. Or, I shouldn't be, I should be grateful. I don't need any more. I mean, wanting any more would be greedy. That's not what that scripture says. That scripture says that our cup can run over and that God can make it run over. And that he can even make it run over in the presence of our enemies. And I think that's an amazing thing. Now, spiritually, I believe that God is a spirit, not a he, but I'm just going to say exactly what I said in terms of it is our divine right and our divine privilege and our divine blessing to have cups that run over, and for our cups to be increasing, for our territory to be increasing, and for us to live abundant lives, that we were given life and given life that we could live it abundantly. And I think sometimes we forget that in the world that we live in. So I just wanted to remind you and say, hey, may you walk in Zenergy. You're only at capacity till you get a bigger container.